So is Furious 7 my favorite Fast and Furious film of all time? Well, let's continue this review and find out. So wow, they did it, people. They have officially made 7 Fast and Furious movies. That's quite a huge franchise. Now the Fast and Furious films are crazy, dumb, and completely ridiculous. But for some reason, I don't mind that. There's just something about the Fast and Furious movies that are just so frickin' entertaining that you just forgive it. Okay, there are some Fast and Furious films I did not like at all, which was the 4th one. I think it's just called Fast and Furious, maybe? But yeah, the 4th one I didn't like that much. I thought Tokyo Drift was okay, and while I remember loving number 2, a lot of people hate that, so I've only seen it once when it first came out, so my opinion on it might be completely different now. But now they have Furious 7, which is the last film with Paul Walker, the last Paul Walker film period, and a lot of people are claiming this is the best Fast and Furious movie ever. But for me, I'm not completely sure. I can understand completely why this film is considered the best Fast and Furious movie of all time. First off, you got it being the last Paul Walker film. And secondly, the plot is pretty much more personal. Now the plot is very simple. The whole crew is being hunted by Jason Statham. But in order to try to hunt Jason Statham down and no longer be the hunted, but the hunters, they have to help this shady CIA type group by finding the God's Eye, which is pretty much the thing from Person of Interest, pretty much, where something can tap into all of the security cameras, all the phones and everything in order to find any person on the world. Well, it's different from Person of Interest because it's not an AI, so... And so with that you get this crazy, dumb, ridiculous, awesome action film that has a few sentimental touches because of Paul Walker's death and Paul Walker's family in this film. Now I gotta say, I had a completely fun time watching this movie, and several people in our theater must have really had a good time because every time something funny, ridiculously crazy happens, there would be several people in our theater that would just completely clap. Just, is this a crazy, off-the-wall, insane Fast and Furious movie? Yes, it has very similarities to number 5 and 6 in its ridiculous stunts, its over-the-top action, and just total random ridiculousness where physics does not apply. Yeah, there's so many ridiculous moments in this film that will just leave you saying, no way, that can't possibly ever happen in real life. But I don't know, it was very fun and it never takes itself seriously. I think that's the reason why Fast and Furious is a little bit more acceptable than other ridiculous action movies. Is because it doesn't take itself seriously, and you know right off the get-go that there's going to be something ridiculous in the film, and you're just going to accept that fact. Now, is there a lot of sentimental drama in the film? Yes, it's just like all the other Fast and Furious movies. There's something sentimental and something that tries to push for drama sprinkled in the film, and it's just like other ones that have followed before it. But for me, it never got too overwhelming and it never got too cheesy. I mean, some of the dialogue is really goddamn cheesy, and some of the one-liners, while completely ridiculous, are hilarious. Now, of course, Paul Walker died halfway through filming this movie, and yeah, that had to have been really tough on the writers as they tried to restructure the whole film so that they could work and still make a movie with Paul Walker still being in it. Now, some scenes you will notice that Paul Walker is just in the background of the scene, or there's a little bit more scenes with Vin Diesel's character rather than Paul Walker. and there's some scenes where the focus is taken off of Paul Walker by either cutting off his face in the shot, or having the back of his head or the side view, or something along those lines. Now, while there is a lot of it and very easy to spot if you're looking for it, I wasn't trying to focus too much on that aspect, and I really didn't notice it that much until I started thinking about it after the film. The one thing that is extremely noticeable is the last scene where they have a CGI Paul Walker face. That was a little creepy, but I knew what it would look like because it was shown in one of the TV spots or one of the trailers. It was one of the last things they showed in one of the Fast and Furious trailers. So I knew what to expect, and it wasn't as shocking, but yeah, either the lighting was completely off or something was really odd about that CGI face. Now, even though it had to have been crazy trying to rewrite the film, it really showed that they put a lot of thought into it, and it didn't feel chaotic. It felt like this was the way the film was meant to be. The action was cool and great. I loved the fight between The Rock and Jason Statham, and Jason Statham versus Vin Diesel. Those two fights were pretty damn amazing. Other than worrying about how they would handle Paul Walker's death, another thing I was a little worried about was James Wan was directing the film, which is really weird because he's the one that made Saw and Dead Silence and tons of other horror movies. But then again, he did make a thriller, a straight-up thriller. It was Death Sentence. So once I remembered he made that one, I was thinking, okay, maybe, just maybe, he is perfect to make a Fast and Furious movie. And there is a sense of James Wan's direction with certain shots and some other aspects that do feel a little bit like Death Sentence or some of his other work. But at the same time, it does feel a lot like number 5 and 6. The one thing I gotta say about it, though, that is kind of weird was there was a lot of camera movements that spun around the main characters. Total 360 around our main characters. There was a lot of that, and probably a little too much. Yes, the stunts and the action is completely ridiculous and laughable, but there's something awesome about it, and while they are ridiculously impossible, there are some moments where it shows that it's at least not perfect. Like when they fall out of the airplane to parachute onto this road. Now, in any other ridiculous stunts in a ridiculous and dumb action movie, they would have all the cars land perfectly onto the road. And not all the cars land perfectly on this one. Now, even though some of the things go way out there in the ridiculousness, there's some little aspect to it that makes it so that it's not perfect, so that's a little bit more believable. I mean, tiny bit believable, but still ridiculous. So yeah, this is easy for me. I'm going to give Furious 7 4 stars. And why so low, despite me saying all this crazy good stuff about it, is because, yeah, it's still a dumb, Abbott entertaining action movie, and most action movies, or most dumb action movies that are just so ridiculous you can't take seriously, the most I could ever give those films are 4 stars, unless it's so perfect and so absolutely awesome that it demands something more than 4 stars, which is very rare. So have you seen Furious 7? What did you think about it? Go ahead and comment. I'm open for discussions. And if you haven't seen Furious 7 yet, what is your favorite Fast and Furious movie? I don't know, mine would have to be either this one or number 6. One's really good too, but it's between those 3. I can't really decide. So as always, this is Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.